General advice, warning and disclaimer. Opinions, thoughts, research, recommendations and content presented are general advice only. They do not take into account your specific circumstances. Please consult a financial professional before making any investment decisions. For further information on our disclaimers and general advice, please see our website and our PDS.
Bulls versus Bears, earnings and central banks, the big talking points this week. Obviously, we started with the RBA reluctantly cutting. Very, very politically motivated, 25 basis points, but she was pretty much saying we shouldn't be doing this, but we're going to because of the election.
And the market took it as a one and done as well. So.
Yeah, well, exactly. And then employment numbers came out incredibly strong. Everyone's going, oh yeah, weak wages, and then 45,000 jobs were created. We're currently sitting 50% above the 10-year average for jobs created for the last 12 months. So I'm pretty sure Michelle Bullock's all she's done is just left the door ajar for the inflation bear to come back in, which Japan is experiencing as we know at the moment.
Yeah, I'll talk about it a little bit later, but the surprise for me is obviously the JGB yields are heading higher, but the yen's strengthening as well. So the dollar index fell through a key level. It's made a new low this week, so that downtrend's intact. But the yen is the one that's actually, basically pushing the dollar index low. And the key is that we've had this massive move in what we call the everything bubble, and it's all been financed, mostly been financed from Japan savings.
Yes, and they're about to get yield for the first time since
exactly. So that's the whole key.
Since it's about 1996.
Exactly. So that's the key. Is that like if you're Japan, do you need to take more risk out there when you can suddenly get 1.5%?
And you've had a pretty good run.
Exactly.
Bring it home.
That's it.
Home. Well, I mean, it wouldn't be great for us, but. And Kai, you got the death episode of The Call. Basically, you got what'd you get? Ordinate and mineral resources, and that was
exactly right. I think it was on that day. Ordinate released in the morning, and again, looking at it, we're going, oh no, it's not going to be a good earnings. But again, against expectations as always, and the expectations were not good for Ordinate. So, but. It reported better than the expectations. Yeah. It was up about 30.
There was an absolute tsunami of brokers saying this thing was going to go broke after calling it like it was going to $100 for the previous years, and then apparently there was a big short position out. I dare say, which is what probably made the up 30% on the day. Because it didn't deserve up 30%, and it's come all the way back down.
So it's just basically shorts covering, eh?
Supposedly, but that's from Twitter. As much as Elon thinks it's the voice of truth, it's also the voice of complete horseshit. So,
no filter.
No filter and no fact checking apparently either, which is something we'll get onto later. Apparently, they're going to do a little bit of a fact check of Fort Knox this week. In the next week. So, Mr. Trump has approved an audit of the inventory and a revaluation of what's in there. I'm tipping he's not doing it because he knows that there's more there than they expect. I'm pretty sure he's doing it because there's not as much there as they expect. So
maybe it's like remember when there was like bags of stones instead of nickel?
Oh, that was the London Metal Exchange. No, that's still going on. That's still going on.
Bags of rocks.
Yeah, bags of rocks.
Okay, fair enough.
Mate, you think if they're warehousing and having it as security, get a geologist for God's sake.
They need an alchemist. You need to turn the rocks into gold.
Well, just into nickel. Nickel's heaps cheaper. You just buy some nickel.
That's it. So we're talking about Michelle Bullock there. So you're saying it's more politics than...
Well, elections in April. So, and if she missed the opportunity to go this month, essentially it's 6 more weeks until... And then she's right in the crux of the election. So I kind of feel their pain. But if they went and influenced the election, which the RBA historically has very much stayed out of, they used to just not go within at least a quarter sort of thing. And I think that they just went, well, if inflation comes down again, we get another low print or a low employment number, we're going to basically by the Labor Party in the election, essentially. So, and given how short memories are these days,
Yes.
it'll be definitely forgotten by the time the election rolls around. So, but yeah, look.
And the thing was, the jobs numbers came out strong yesterday as well.
Oh,
So she's like, yeah, I told you guys.
Yeah, so the 12-month average is 46,500 a month. So that's 52% above the last 10-year average that we're adding. So we're adding 50% more jobs per month than we have for the last decade. For 12 months straight.
Yeah.
But we needed a rate cut, apparently. So one interesting view, which I don't necessarily subscribe to, but is that the rate cut will have way more effect now because the boomers are just getting really high rates. It's not much of it. It doesn't actually giving a rate cut pushes more money into the economy because the boomers have all got this money sitting in these deposits and things like that. But it really, what does it make? It's $100 difference or something a month or something.
I saw that.
It's not really helping the little guy. Let's face it. It's not helping businesses either because their rates are like 10 and 12%. Judo Bank's did very well this week as well.
Yeah.
So the only bank, the sole bank to do okay, which sort of leads us into the NAB. We haven't got the slides there, but NAB led the charge down. JT, you were looking.
Yeah. So they released earnings on the Wednesday and obviously missed expectations. That sort of started a lot of selling in the banks, but it was led by NAB's earnings. And look, if you see the charts, there's been a lot of damage there. So, what we were talking about with RBA cutting, what actually happened was the bond yields actually rose after the cut. So it's kind of like what happened in the US where the Fed cut, I think, 100 and the yields went up 100. So everyone was expecting this mortgage relief.
Yeah.
Never came. Funny thing is the banks actually passed on the 25 bips almost immediately.
It was a race.
Yeah.
Normally they drag their feet a little bit.
Exactly. So it just shows you that that's the kind of pressure they're on. It's like we want to keep that sort of market share within the mortgages, and so we got to keep our main customers happy. So that's what's happened there. And obviously, if the banks are passing on the cuts and their cost of borrowing, as in the yields are heading higher, just means their net interest margins are suffering, and that's one of the main reasons why we see a big sell-off in the banks at the moment. So,
well, that and the fact that they're just stupidly overpriced, but that's just my opinion. I've been wrong for a year.
You've been overpriced. They've been overpriced for a long time, and they just keep going. But as I said, this is the first time where you look at the chart. There's a lot of trend lines being broken, support levels being broken.
And loans and arrears were horrible for NAB.
Oh, were they? Okay.
So there was a very funny meme with the head of credit walking out and having a vomit or something on Twitter as well. But I mean, they've always been. They're not exactly the greatest of the four banks. Not that we invest in anything outside of the CBAs, the Macquaries, or the Judos.
Yeah, exactly.
As well,
just stick with the leaders.
Yeah, the other three pillars are just there for decoration. But next week we got.
Sorry, I actually forgot. So Domain, there was an actual takeover offer. So I forget the name of the US company.
They've been hoovering stock.
So CoStar had been buying. They got up to I think 17%, just buying it on market, and then actually came out with a takeover bid. So interesting. REA actually, the main competitor, the leader in the space, actually fell away today as well. So interesting that obviously here in Australia we're property mad. So digital real estate, selling digital real estate, that sells real estate is actually quite valuable here. Yes. So obviously taking over Domain. It makes kind of a lot of sense. I mean,
it's the best day Nine Entertainment's had for a while because it's the only. They might not want to give it away. It's the only yielding asset they've got. Yeah.
Well, and don't forget, Rio was trying to take over the UK equivalent as well. I forget the name of the company in the UK, but it just shows you digital real estate, selling real estate. It's a quite a valuable business there. So because obviously, I think I was talking to a mate, he's in real estate. I think REA charges $5,000 a listing per property.
Jeez, that's
it's insane. It's quite high, and because they have almost a monopoly position, like they've got such a dominant position, they're just like, well, we just keep raising prices.
Yeah, because I remember looking at RIA for News Corp that holds them.
Yeah.
As well. I think they hold like 40% stake in that. And their market share is way bigger than Domain. I was like, I would have thought they were actually fairly equal, but it was like, no, RIA has a lot more of a market share than Domain. So.
Yeah, well, it just shows, because I know Domain came out, it's a spin-off from, I think, Sydney Morning Herald, or that's where it came from. But
which Nine now owns all the radio stations, Fairfax and obviously Nine.
Yeah,
so,
but I remember when they sort of spun that off, and I'm like, I'm curious if it's able to compete, but it just hasn't been like real. I think the amount of traffic that RIA gets versus Domains, I think something like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
Like it's amazing.
Bigger,
Yeah.
And if you use either one of them, zero difference.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Except the
it
calculator.
really is.
The calculator was it? When we were talking about it the other day, it was like RIA. They have that loan borrowing calculator, and that's what everyone uses it for. It's like, how much can I borrow?
Yes.
Like,
yeah. Well, it's and apparently, no, it was the native ads fellow. He goes, they weren't. No one was allowed to touch the calculator. It was the highest value space for advertising on their site. So, we had pretty couple of really good results this week as well. Tilix has knocked it out of the park. Newmont was very good today, although it's drifted off. I don't really understand why, but they beat by 50% basically on all metrics. Rally in the US session was up 3% today, and then was now drifted off. But I mean,
yeah. Well, you did mention that. We've had a good run, like apart from Mars Group, was it?
Yeah, so Mars Group was the only one that we had a bit of a disappointing in our small caps, but on average we were up about sort of 13 or 14% on or 8 out of 9 this week, which I don't think has ever really happened actually. Usually you get a couple wrong or a couple sideways, but
it's usually like a coin toss, but it looks like. Looks
like we've actually, give ourselves a pat on the back. We've done our job properly. This new high conviction thing that we've started is obviously working quite well. So we've got a few of ours next week as well. But WiseTech on Wednesday, which is still on the high conviction, but we don't really own it at the moment, just because of the touchy-feely nature of.
Just curious, that Nvidia result, is that going to be before Wednesday, or is it usually?
It'll be Wednesday. It'll be Thursday morning.
Okay.
So and Salesforce as well. Home Depot and Walmart had a shocker overnight, and that's very rare for them. So
is that the suffering US consumer?
Supposedly,
okay.
Yeah. The consumer stocks haven't been doing particularly well. So Woolies and Coles this week coming up as well. They'll both cry poor because the ACCC inquiry is on the 28th of February, so expect them to be absolutely kicking a can and saying how compressed their margins are. But next earnings, you watch them come back once the smoke clears. So we're happy to own Woolworths at the moment. I think there's a lot of risk in Coles because I reckon they will. Look, if you're sitting on that board, they're not idiots. You don't get to that spot. Like, there is no way that either one of those two companies posts a record profit, or even expanded margins. They will. I would be, if I was them, I'd be putting through every single charge I possibly can to compress my margins so I can cry poor.
That's it.
Go and get a suit from the op shop for when you turn up to ACCC, so you look poor. The whole works. So I'm sure. I've got a mate who used to negotiate with Woolworths and Coles, and it's not beneath them to hire a homeless guy to go in as their lawyer to look poor. So look, there'll be some dirty tactics. I think at one stage, the best performing Coles in Australia Woolworths was at the Big Bear in Neutral Bay. So the competitor, I think Woolworths, bought the building under a shell company because it entitled them to look at the books. So, they will do anything, basically. So, Woodside's on Tuesday, Ampol and APA, Polynova and Lovisa on Monday. That'll be interesting, actually, Lovisa, because there's been a couple of retailers do well. Particularly the growth retailers. Temple and Webster did well early.
Yeah, and I'm curious how Endeavour goes. Like on the chart, before maybe about a week ago, it looked terrible, but it's actually starting to pick up here. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
Definitely cheap.
Well, look, I try and help Dan Murphy's out as much as I can. So I'm look, they've got some great assets, and obviously it's liquor and alcohol, so should do well.
Qantas on Thursday as well. Autodesk, which is one of our high convictions from the AI thing, which is, I've got to say, them and ServiceNow are pretty pricey. So I'm a bit nervous with that one, but. We're not we're not fully allocated.
Pretty pricey is an understatement.
Yeah, look, ServiceNow is more pricey than Autodesk, I've got to say, and it held up over earnings. So
one thing we did miss actually, corporate. I'm looking at Qantas. Was like corporate travel. Actually, we did quite well.
That's from the old balanced portfolio. Yeah. But no, well, that was more a sigh of relief than anything else, and it's continued to rally over the course of the week. It certainly didn't cut the mustard for the high conviction. Yeah. So it is now departed from our minds. It can come off our watch list, but because we've only got, we're trying to keep that to 50 or 60 stocks, absolute maximum in different categories. So we've got income, growth, mining, and small caps for Australian stocks, and then we've got just the US stocks at the moment. Mm-hmm. And I'm pretty sure that US stocks universe is going to expand quite rapidly. That's a good segue actually. We're going into US stock news now. So Alibaba was up 8% on earnings overnight. So and I think Baidu had a reasonable result as well, but it was fairly mixed, saying here. But Walmart fell 6%. Outlook for sales were below forecast, which is not the American way. They always set the bar so they can always beat by this much.
That's true. So yeah, like Walmart's and Costco, they're the two kind of.
I don't wash out your mouth. Costco is far better than Walmart, surely.
No, I'm just saying, but in terms of footprint, like Walmart's got so many more stores.
Walmart's the largest employer in the US.
Yeah, exactly. But so that's the bellwether in that space. So for them to give out a warning, that's pretty much watch out.
Yeah. So and in terms of the overall stocks in the US, I think the financials were. Financials a little bit weaker overnight.
That's what caught my eye, because obviously Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, Bank of America, they're the top three. I've been looking at the chart going, wow, these things are on fire, and they all reversed last night. So
except for Berkshire Hathaway, but it's a bit hard for it. It's 30% cash, so it's only really mucking around with the tail. But It's the what happened in commodities, mate?
Commodities,
apart from gold and silver and copper, just keep going up.
No. So copper didn't keep going up. So what happened last Friday? I think it was like the Friday night. Gold, silver, and copper all printed new highs. Like silver.
Oh yes, I remember that. Yes.
Yeah. So gold made a new high. Silver busted through that 32.50. I think it traded nearly 33.
I'm pretty sure it traded through.
I'm talking spot, so spot's a little bit lower than the futures. But basically, it was around midnight, 1 a.m. our time. It printed that high, and then he just got
someone absolutely belted it. And I woke up on Saturday morning, and I'm sitting there writing the morning report Saturday morning, and flicking through, having a bit of a look through Twitter. The conspiracy theories about the big banks protecting a short position in silver was extraordinary.
Yeah, because they had all those delays in deliveries with the London Metals Exchange.
That was a long time ago, wasn't it?
It's still ongoing.
There's always a story about JP Morgan being short silver, but apparently they locked in. They hold physical silver. Yeah, they locked in a hedge supposedly, but it always shows up as this enormous future short. But they've got the physical, so like it. And God knows who that short could be from 20, 30 years ago. Yeah, so could be from 50 years ago. Who knows? But
either way, that's so gold, silver, and copper did that last Friday night. Got smacked, and then the thing was that was actually the actual low. Like Monday morning, people just set mine, and gold just kept pretty much a nice consistent run through the week. Made a new high again last night. Silver hasn't made a new high, but it's back above that 32.50 level and it's trading around that 33 again. Yeah. So that looks good, and usually, as you said, silver kind of plays catch up, and maybe this could be it.
Yeah, but I'm not making the mistake again. I remember like 12 months ago we bought silver looking for the break, and then we spent 9 months underwater on that position. So I think I'll be definitely waiting for the break with momentum this time and making sure that it gets through. It's a difficult trade because if you get it wrong at these highs, you're 20% out of the money in about 2 weeks.
Yeah, and silver's a massive contract as well. So you've got extreme leverage on that.
If it goes, it doubles.
Oh yeah.
So you don't have to get the next 10%. Like if you wait for confirmation, and I think you'll find that you're far better off. It's not like it's going to go. It's not like gold, where it if someone said gold's going to 6,000, you'd be like, yeah, come on. But silver genuinely can double, if not triple, over those periods when it plays catch up. So you can afford to be patient and miss that first little bit of the move.
Yeah, so copper did the same as gold and silver, but the thing is, like, it's got smacked down, and that's actually just been it for the week. It's still under that sort of 470 level, which is kind of key. So
well, he's watered down the tariffs talk again.
So is he? Okay, well, there you go.
That was why it's stuck.
Uranium, disappointing. Spot's trying to find the low.
Uranium's been so disappointing. I'm going to take it off this list. I think. So
crude oil found support at 70. I think there's some more Middle East tensions again, so that's helped it, and it's back above that 72 level, which is kind of a key support. Iron ore back above 110.
The Australian Financial Review will be spewing. They're probably still writing probably still writing an article saying that it's down anyway.
Yeah,
they do hate the iron ore miners. So, but BHP and Fortescue both up 2.5% today. BHP survived its earnings pretty well. Let's face it, because it wasn't outstanding, and the dividends were reduced, but all the bad news is priced in. Fortescue got smacked yesterday, but it's rebounded today. But I mean, it's still like a 3% fully franked dividend for the half. So, but CBA is 4 for the whole year, for God's sake.
Yeah.
So, and trading at just under 2 to 1 price to book. So,
yep. And
I think people who bailed out of Fortescue yesterday, if this iron ore price is now at 5-month highs and very close to being at like 9 to 12-month highs.
Yeah, and remember we kept talking what their margins are. Like their cost of production is around 20.
Yeah.
So if it goes from 100 to 110, it's just like, wow,
they've done a bit of capex and things like that. No, I think that the wind back of the hydrogen's in that result largely as well.
Okay.
So, but it's the stock that it's the little Australian the stock that all the analysts love to hate. So Bitcoin was sideways, pretty much.
Bitcoin. Like I think it's nearly 4 weeks of sideways action. So it's got to break out either which way soon. My tip is that because gold keeps heading higher, it should follow that. But who knows? Bitcoin tends to do the thing. And dollar index. So US dollar made a new low last night, as I said, on the back of yen strength. So keep an eye on that. If there's, the last time we had a bit of a pullback in the market was the yen carry trade. And the reason why I was a little bit ahead of the game is that I kept an eye on the yen. So keep an eye on the Japanese yen strength. If that continues and the JGB yields keep heading higher, it means that there's money flowing back into Japan from out of the rest of the world. So that could be if anyone's quite bullish, that could be a bit of a reversal there.
Well, I mean, look, the US will probably just print to fill the gap, won't they?
Well, they can, but like.
Why would you change your tactics? Trump watch. This is kind of getting. I thought it might be funny to have this segment going, but I think like uranium, I think we might. This segment's just increasingly I'm so sick of hearing about him. So basically, tariffs were on, off, watered down, back on, and then off again this week. Elon's been some interesting stuff that's been going on with him. He has found a lot of skeletons in the closet.
Mm-hmm.
He's found a graveyard in the closet to be
some
honest,
200-year-olds basically.
Yes, that was the funniest thing. Is I think they're paying Social Security to 1.6 million people who are aged over the age of 140. So 3.3 billion, Mr. Trump reckons, is being paid to people over 100 and 120 years of age.
Wow.
So there's, just for the record, there's 21 million people over 100 getting paid social security. There's actually only 89,000 people on an estimate above 100 actually. So they, you can't even call it a rounding error because it's 233 times
that's
more.
Someone forgot to carry the one.
Someone forgot to carry the 1,000. So that is, but they keep finding stuff, and then as we said, they're going to go in and audit and revalue Fort Knox, the gold in Fort Knox.
Oh, gold in Fort Knox, and as I mentioned, they're going to go after the Pentagon as well. So
yeah, 8%. They've already announced that they might cut the defence budget by 8%. So, which that is like the GDP of most other countries.
Yeah.
So we're going to have, but the Fort Knox thing. There is no way he's not going in there unless he knows that there's like this is the when a new CEO comes in and you've got that window to air every bit of dirty laundry you possibly can.
Yeah.
Trump is like it's not airing dirty laundry.
Let's do everything.
He's smearing crap on it and airing it. Like he is trying to find the whole works because it's not going to be his problem. He's going to be the guy that fixed it.
Yeah.
So
so let's just say. They find less gold in there. Like that gold must be backing something, isn't it? Like it's reserves for somebody.
Nixon abandoned the gold standard, so I don't know whether anyone cares, do they?
No. All I'm just saying, so is that's got to be on someone's balance sheet. What I'm saying.
Well, the government's balance sheet somewhere.
Is it the Federal Reserve's balance sheet?
Yeah,
just print it. It's a write it off.
Yeah, print gold. No, it would definitely reduce. It would hold into question the US. We're already talking about it because of the debt, the credit rating. But if you're a bank and you're lending someone money, they don't let you sell the house and then just take the cash and bugger off.
Yeah.
If you can't securitise at least a little bit, as one very clever bloke said, it's not. Used to be backed by gold. Now it's backed by super carriers. So but I think there's been a couple of Larry Fink was suggesting a 30-year fixed mortgage rate in Australia, which is an interesting article on the Fin Review this week. But
30-year fixed, okay.
I don't know what. Well,
I like that.
Well, yeah, the consumer would like it, but I don't think the banks would like it.
Globally, they're already doing that. So, like in the UK,
other global banks do other things apart from just mortgages.
Yeah.
Ours are building societies with like a bank at the end. So, they literally don't do anything else. And when they have, it's been just a litany of disasters. Every time NAB's failed at launching, failed at about 3 international bank takeovers in its time. So Clydesdale Bank, which became Virgin UK, and when they sold it and all the sorts. So haven't got a great history there, and then all their trading desks are all
they're all gone now.
They're all gone now. So where would they make the money? Apparently, you private credit these days, you just get it anywhere.
Well, not just that. They just they might have these 30-year mortgages on their books, but then they just trade that paper. That's what the GFC got caught up on.
Macquarie Bank would be just cheering because they actually do have a business that does something plus mortgages. So, and then they lock you in for 30 years because that's the thing with the US is you're not allowed to move. Mm-hmm. Basically, if you've got to sell your house to buy your house, you've got to refinance, which is why no one sold their house.
That's right, because the rates have gone up to
from 1% to whatever. So basically, and another thing since Trump's got in, you should say there was a map of how many houses are for sale in Washington. Basically, it's a mass exodus from the Democrats because they know they're not getting back in for about the next 20 years after they're finding all of these US aid things. So, they've always pitched themselves as the trustworthy party. There's some dodgy stuff going on. Yeah. Nancy Pelosi could go to jail if they start looking into trades. So I reckon Trump will go after it too, actually. So, but it's been another obviously another big week of earnings next week. Nvidia is going to be that's wraps up earnings season basically for the US. So then So
then we'll have a quiet month after that. Yeah,
a quiet month, but I mean, as you very rightly pointed out, it doesn't tend to move massively in either direction over earnings. So it could be game on.
yeah, that's true.
And we've got that payrolls that I'm worried about now that Trump's now that Trump's got his first week a month out of the way. That March payrolls might be there might be a few revisions happening.
Revisions
well.
or maybe a negative.
Well, mind you, he's sacked like 5 whole departments.
That's right. He's given them like 8 months leave type of thing, and they just
Is it 8 months leave?
Yeah, or
That's
8
right.
months severance or something like whatever that is. So
Well, I wonder if that counts. So it'll be interesting.
yeah, because they're not on the unemployed.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's all about the
Bureau of Labour and Statistics will work out a way. It's just like the inflation numbers. If it's inflationary, just remove it.
That's it.
Yeah. So trade of the week was another humble brag. Energy One of our small cap recs. Back in November, bought at 550. I think it's been a week out of the money, but today knocked it out of the park and is up 49% in just 3.5 months.
Nice.
So not as good as Palantir being up 69% in 20 days, or 10 days. But Palantir, though, I must say, has seen. I have seen at least half a dozen or to a dozen just downgrades with price targets at like $40 on Palantir this week. The analysts hate it. For some reason, but they seem to keep making money. They seem to keep going up, not making money. So to GameStop, I suppose.
Yeah, well, I forget the number. What we were saying was like a 560 PE or something. Palantir at one stage. Oh,
no, I think it made a crack. It was 680 or something like that. Yeah.
There you go. Cheap.
No, because it was. I think at the top it was worth over $40 billion. It only made $40 million in profit. So. And then they're talking about the defence spending going down. So, so we have got out of that a little bit in those things. So, but if you want to find out before, obviously, so we don't you don't have to hear us doing the humble brag. Sign up to the members portal and you'll find out because there's been a couple this week that you would have made good money out of. So,
so
bullish or bearish next week, gents?
that's right. We didn't actually get the stats, and I forgot if we actually did it last week.
I think I was bullish 2 weeks in a row because that I had to remember because I've never been bullish 2 weeks in a row. It won't be a third, let me tell you.
Okay, so for next week, you're bearish?
Yes, I'm bearish, but I don't think it'll happen until late in the week because I think Nvidia will keep. Everyone will be waiting until then. But I don't like the way those financials are moving. We've led the market down. So usually we just follow the US, whereas this week we've been down, and then the US is kind of they're not following us, but that's usually a trend of like funds liquidating across the board or going.
Yeah, well, that's what the XGO tends to do. Is like when the US is rallying, we rally, but not as much. But when markets start to fall, we lead the way.
We lead, yeah.
Good old XJO. So I'm actually bearish for next week. And what about yourself, Kai?
Oh, so am I. Just looking at the
Oh,
weakness.
3 bears.
Well, we were 3 bulls last week.
It was 3 bulls.
Yeah.
I think it's 2 weeks ago. We were 3 bulls.
Yeah.
And so we're bearish for next week. And as I said, there's plenty of things to worry about. But I'm keeping an eye on the currencies at this stage.
Yeah, it just looks a little bit weary. Just in general, like. The record highs this week have been they've happened like because I get in early. They've happened in the last like 5 or 10 minutes.
Oh really? So it's just like one.
Sometimes they've happened in the match and they're 0.1 or 0.2. I don't think it's like Walmart. I think that is more concerning than people think because they're a massive employer. It's a very good bellwether of consumer sentiment. I think Costco's not as good a bellwether because it's a better business. So I think they would adjust their pricing and things. So, but it'd be really it could be getting towards the final week of earnings next week as well. So,
true. And don't forget, we've had such a great run. Like what's it been like since October 23? Yeah. I remember October 23. That was pretty much the low, and then from November it's been one-way traffic. I mean, we've had the yen carry trade. That was one little pullback. Then I think there was another little pullback, but then those just lasted maybe 2-3 days, and then the market just ripped again. So we've had a few days here in Australia where we're closing at the lows for the week. I think it's a 1 month low today, and it just looks like who's going to lead us higher? That's I guess that's my case, is that the banks can't lead us higher, and they've been doing all their heavy lifting. So if they just go sideways, this we could see some support levels breaking.
Well, and Nvidia and those chip stocks are back at record highs. So
they're pre-DeepSeek.
Yeah, well, no, I think they're through those levels.
Oh, okay.
So I would imagine any misstep there, I think it just feels like the market's pressing its luck at the moment. Yeah. It's just like it just is being a touch responsible, just it'll be fine because it always goes up, and that tends to be when things don't necessarily end up going up.
That's what I always thought as well, is that because there's so much money coming in, and everyone kind of just assumes 8% a year, 8% a year. Look, you ask anyone that invests in ETFs, they're like, S&P makes 8% every year, and then we've had 2 years where it's done 20%, 20%. We could just be up maybe 3% for the year, and people will be like, "Oh my God, it's the worst."
Be the worst because they're used to.
They're just used to these high numbers, and obviously, I've seen it in crypto where 10 baggers, 100 baggers just come and go like nothing. And then you realise that's actually not normal.
What we've done,
market.
It does usually on average rally about 8.8. So we've done 5 years in 18 months.
Exactly. So we could just be going sideways for a little bit, just to get the averages to catch up.
Sideways will get people's itchy trigger fingers going. I think so. It'll be. But the green shoots from China as well. I did a little bit of research. There was a client request to have a look at JD.com, and I thought I'd instantly hate it, and I did a bit of a deeper dive. But the Chinese consumer is actually starting to recover a little bit, and China. I don't know. I didn't go into depths of the
have you looked at their indices?
Yeah, their indices are going back up again.
So they went above the 24 highs earlier in the week, and I haven't looked at them. But I just assume.
Well, Hang Seng's up 2% today.
Yeah, and it was all on. It was actually the DeepSeek announcement.
So him going with Jack Ma and all.
So, but that's actually when it started. So they released DeepSeek, and that kind of just pushed it up. And I was like, okay, here we go.
But if you look at it historically, it's the highest concentration of global money being invested in US stocks that there's ever been. And then I think DeepSeek, everyone's just gone, oh, that's right. There's other countries. So and we've been talking about this on the podcast this has been going for a year now. We've been talking about this the Chinese are not crappy manufacturers anymore, and their Silicon Valley's way ruthless as well. So and has probably produced some of the best tech in recent times.
And you saw the BYD Shark on the road?
Yes, the BYD Shark, the Ute.
I like to follow cars, and the good thing about cars is that there's a lot of objective sort of car reviewers out there, and they've been throwing the BYD Shark out in the outback and trying to thrash it, and they're like, this thing's going to kill the Hilux because basically it's cheaper by about
20 grand cheaper.
20 grand cheaper than a Hilux, and they're saying it is built tough.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So they basically, I think I can't remember the number, but it was thousands of cars were up for pre-sale, and it was 2 hours they were done. Wow. So and if you're a tradie, we were discussing this morning. Diesel's been $2 a litre forever, but I mean, you can install. You own your own house. Every tradie owns their own house. They can chuck the solar and the batteries in. Your fuel cost just disappears. I mean, that's a pretty big part of your.
Yeah.
I mean, they tear a chunk off your mortgage over the course of a year. You're probably putting in $200 worth of fuel a week.
Yeah. So this thing.
Better than a rate cut.
Well, this thing, it's 2 litres per 100 k's, and the battery can.
Oh, so it's a hybrid.
It's a petrol electric hybrid.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
And you can go 100 k's without charging. So, it's got a big size battery. It's just surprising. There's actually another Chinese car. I forget the name of it, but they've got one cheaper than the BYD Shark.
Yeah.
With this kind of very similar mechanics, and I think they'll start thrashing that and see how it goes as well. But
that's probably where if it survived the outback though, I mean, Toyotas are, but yeah, they're pretty thirsty. My old man's got one, which I actually had for a while, and I miss you on fuel, that's for sure.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. Well, either way, look, we're in interesting times there, and I guess one of my when Trump was going through election, he was always about make America great again, you know, and I really thought, trying to get manufacturing back to America, they'll find out that the workers in America aren't as skilled and obviously charge more, and China's just going to go, is that all you got?
Yeah. Well, they had there was a big Mar-a-Lago. There was a big conference of like big business names down there because it's like it's almost like going to visit. They described it as going to visit the king, which is kind of funny. And this guy was just like, he was pretty jittery. Like the guy owned a multi-billion-dollar real estate fund. And he said, it's all well and good to bring manufacturing. Like he's there to lobby him, so he's pro-Trump. He wouldn't have been invited otherwise. And he said, Americans don't want those jobs. Like, he goes, we don't want to bring do we really want to bring manufacturing back to Australia? No one wants those jobs. Yeah. He's just like, he goes, how about just like, reduce, same problem as Australia, reduce planning approvals from like 2 years to maybe 1. That'd be really helpful. So, but there was a definite air of uncertainty in the guy's voice, though. He's just going, there's been a lot of announcements because we just got to try and work out which ones are going to actually happen and which ones aren't. And he's at a pro-Trump rally, so even the devotees are getting nervous now. I think he probably needs to, less, as we say to some people with 180 stocks in their portfolio, less stocks and, more high conviction. I was genuinely surprised to hear them be a bit. They were a bit sceptical. The rousing cheer from the crowd is kind of starting to peter off. So yeah. But anyway, we'll wrap it up, and we'll see everyone next week. And we've got 3 bears this week. Fear and Greed it's just in neutral.
45 neutral. So yeah, it's interesting. I thought
it would be worse. Yeah.
Yeah, but either way, neutral 45.
There was 3 new record highs this week.
Yeah, so
by 0.1.
You're right. So for record highs to be quite neutral, yeah, that's a bit of a telling sign there.
Yeah. All right. Well, stay safe out there and trade well, and we'll speak to you next week.
Thanks, guys.